When it gets to November and December and the temperatures cool off and we start to get those first frosts, I always start to think about pike. Now there's a couple of venues that I love to fish. One's the trout reservoirs. They're amazing, amazing places to fish, and they can be expensive, but you can catch the fish of your dreams. However, I love fishing gravel pits like we're on today. Big expanses of water, really wild, and they hold some superb fish. Now they thrive on neglecting these venues, but one really good thing about them for many people is that they're really cheap to fish and they're run by clubs, so they're easily accessible to. When it comes to rigs on gravel pits, it's all about simplicity and strength in my fishing. Now I'd love to use a float. There's nothing better than watching a float on gravel pits and watching it slide away when the fish picks up the bait, but often they're really windswept venues and it just isn't a viable option. So I just use a standard running lead setup. These are constructed using the Enterprise Snag Safe run ring, which are perfect because it just keeps the resistance really, really low when a fish picks up the bait, as it allows the line or the braid to move easily through the run ring. These also have the added benefit that the lead can discharge if it becomes snagged at all. Now when it comes to traces, I prefer a really heavy wire, around 40 pounds or so I would recommend, and I prefer my traces to end up about 18 inches in length. What I also like to use is a little clip so I can take the traces on or off when I catch a fish, or if they become kinked at all. When it comes to trebles, my favourite size is a size 4. I love the owner style hooks, and I always carry a couple of different wire gauges just in case they're needed. Strength is absolutely paramount. Now I'm a massive fan of using braided mainlines when fishing for pike. However, today the venue that we're fishing has got a braid band, so I've switched to mono. The mono that I've spooled up with is 20 pound Hydro Tough. This is the most abrasive line that I know of, and it breaks well above the 20 pound breaking strain that's stated on the spool. One tool that I never neglect when fishing large pits are bait boats. Now they can be frowned upon, but they have so many advantages when fishing for pike. Now when you're fishing small features or holes in the weed, they can be absolutely invaluable for just dropping a hook bait with pinpoint accuracy. I also like to use them because it allows me to add chops into the bait boat, and these can be fed directly over the top of the rig, making perfect presentation. It's just on the surface out there. I don't think it's a massive fish. I've had bigger chub than this year, but hopefully as the day goes on we'll catch a real nice one. When fishing for pike on Stillwaters, I always bring a selection of baits with me to see what they favour on the day. Now I'm a big fan of seed-head baits, and my #1 choice has to be smelt. These can be a little bit tricky to get hold of, but they're well worth the effort because they almost glow on the bottom and they've accounted for loads of big fish. My second favourite, sardines. They're readily available, cheap, and they're packed full of oil, and they make a great hook bait. My third choice is obviously blueies. Again, a fantastic bait, closely followed by mackerel. Location in any form of fishing is my absolute #1 priority, and I always spend as much time as possible walking the banks and also looking for features. Now one thing that I never ever neglect when I fish a new venue is spending time with a marker float, finding the features that I want to present a bait on. Now what I'm looking for is, the obvious one is the margins, the big overhangs, the slopes, but I'm also looking for big gravel bars, humps where I can present a bait on clean ground. Now I really rate this method because it just allows you to present a nice fresh fish on what is ultimately a dinner table. So now when they swim across it, they can't miss it and they'll often drop down and pick it up. Now the way I do this is with a standard marker float set up like you'd be carp fishing, and then when I find something that I'm looking for, I'll just place the line in the line clip, reel it in, and then wrap it up around some distance sticks ready so I can place a bait on the same spot. I've been fortunate enough to land some lovely pike in recent years from iconic rivers such as the Hampshire Avon and the Dorset Stour, and I've had some beautiful fish from large gravel pits in this area, but one fish that really stands out in my mind is a fish from Chew Valley. I'll never forget the moment when the braid pulled out the clip, I wound down and the rod absolutely hooped over as the fish held at range. After an epic battle with it taking line and it really didn't want to come into the bank, a really big fish swam across the net and it tail walked across the side of the net and then went away again, and I really saw the width and the length of this fish, and it was really important that this one had to go in the net. When it did eventually go in the net, I was meted with an absolutely colossal fish, and after bringing it into a retainer and taking it up the bank and resting it on the net, it was just the absolute pike of my dreams. It weighed 37 pounds 12 ounces, an absolutely immaculate but huge fish in superb condition, and I remember watching it swim strongly away and thinking, it's the absolute pike of my dreams. We've enjoyed a fantastic session on one of my favourite gravel pits today. It started off really nice calm conditions and absolutely perfect, if I'm honest. And then throughout the day the weather's built, we've had rain, the wind's come in, but we've caught some really nice fish as well. So mid-morning, one of the rods pulled out the clip. Initially, when I wound down, I thought we were attached to a really big fish, but that one resulted in a nice jack, so we slipped that one back. We soon got the rod back out, and then sort of 2 or 3 hours later, in typical gravel pit fashion where you sit there for ages and nothing happens, line pulled out the clip on the same rod, steadily went away, and instantly before I'd even wound down, I just had a feeling it was going to be a really good fish, and I was proved absolutely right. We wound down, set the hooks, and the rod absolutely folded, and I knew instantly that we were into a real good fish. You're never quite sure with the amount of weed, but there wasn't a lot of head lunges, and it just felt a really good weight, and it started kiting to the right. After a really good tussle, and we drew over a lovely 20-pound pike over the net. Real big shoulders on it, big eyes, and in beautiful condition. And we laid it on the mat, carefully took the hooks out, and we were just greeted with an absolutely gorgeous pike. And that's what we do it for, really, is we can sit there for hours and hours being really despondent on these gravel pits, but you have those moments of just pure delight when you land a fish like that.